This is discipline 7, shot number 2. Here most of the racks are already set up in normal racking position. I'm going to position the 8 ball, which is the ball I'm going to make in the corner pocket, one ball width away from the rack, and I'm going to draw a straight line through the tangent line of these back 2 balls in this corner. So take the contact point, straight line, go straight through the cue ball and the 8 ball. I'm going to measure out a 2 ball gap behind the 8 ball for the cue ball spacing. And I'm going to use my cue stick also to help with the alignment here. So I'm actually going to point my cue stick towards the first diamond on the long rail while freezing it to the 8 ball. And then from there, I'll freeze these other 2 balls in line and put the cue ball behind it. So there's my 2 ball gap between the cue ball and the 8 ball. And then we'll carefully put those 2 back there and get the cue stick out of the way. So then, to execute the shot, it's just aiming to cut the 8 into the corner, a little bit of elevation. You should be able to jump the cue ball right into the center of the rack. So for me, this is about a 3/4 ball aim. You don't need much elevation. I'm going to come down, the cue tip's going to come down, hit the table at about 3/4 of the distance to the 8 ball. And then a nice little pop is all you really need to get the cue ball airborne. So that's the shot. It's not as easy as it looks, I think, and there's a lot of variables you can play with. You have to be really consistent with the spacing of the 8 ball out here. You have to be consistent with the gap between the cue ball and the 8 ball, and you have to be consistent with your aim of where the cue ball and 8 ball are, because if the cut angle is going to be off a little bit, the cue ball is going to be jumping all over the place, and you're not going to know what happens. I like to keep the gap constant and just change my elevation or power in order to change where the cue ball's jumping off to. The other thing you can do is keep the gap constant, but you can move both balls forward and back a little bit if you find the cue ball jumping too far forward or too far back, one way or the other, with whatever stroke and power you're most comfortable with. Other than that, I try not to elevate too much on this shot, because then it's more difficult to aim straight and shoot straight. But like I said, there's a lot of things you can play with on this shot. You just have to pick which are easiest for you to control. For me, that's just kind of some subtle adjustments on the aim line, and then I'll adjust my elevation and power slightly. But you can easily overdo it if you make adjustments in too big increments.